include planning for the future, planning for new employees, that would be children, additional partners, because these additional partners will inadvertently become shareholders. It is important to note, however, that Genesis 2 and verse 18 did not say anything about children. You don't need children for a marriage to be successful. God blessed them, the Bible says. Then he said to them, be fruitful and multiply. So then, children don't make marriage a marriage. Children are additional blessing to a marriage. They may come and they may not come. All right. You must communicate regularly about the business. So plan business meetings. Plan when you are going to talk. You have to plan those things. It must not just come spontaneously like that. You should always talk. But I'm talking when you're going to have your business meeting, what you're going to talk about. Because, ladies, a man's brain is like waffle. It has compartments. A woman's brain is like spaghetti. The truth of the matter is, we can't handle all those stuff that you're throwing at us in and out. So you have to plan it. You have to plan it. And of course, this is where most couples mess up. You see, because they were not taught how to take stock in their marriage. Every successful marriage must take stock. But you can only take stock when you plan. You can only take stock when you recognize you are partners and you have forward planning. Your marriage should be growing every year. As you look at plans that you have made, you sit back and you look at, are we achieving our goals? What do we need to adjust? Are we spending too much here or there? How can we do better and improve? You are a business partner. You take stock by looking at what you have been offering to your partner and ask yourself, am I meeting his needs? Am I meeting her needs? Married people don't generally talk about those things, but if you approach your marriage like a business, then you have to say, am I meeting my wife's needs? And you cannot answer that question. You have to ask the question. You can't ask yourself that question and arrive at an answer. You have to say, honey, am I meeting those needs? Ask the question. You don't have to ask it every day, but there are appropriate times when you should ask it, and your spouse should be honest enough. Marriage is work, and some people will say hard work. Remember this, remember this. True love is an unconditional commitment to an imperfect person. Love grows, and I don't want you to miss this. Love grows, and all growth, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, all growth requires time. But get this, anything that grows must be alive. It must be alive to grow. But the sad fact is also, anything that grows can die. Put that in your intellectual pipe and smoke it. Okay? So the love you had last year may not be the love you have this year. Because if the love is not nourished and nurtured, then the love could be withering and wilting. Okay? So it is your job. It is your job, your responsibility to find out what nurtures and what nourishes your partner. Some people spend time doing the things that are not needed, or They are not necessary. That which is needed is not done. So don't waste time doing the unnecessary things when your spouse is asking you to do something particular. You leave the particular and do the unnecessary. It makes no sense. Gentlemen, listen to me. Brothers, listen to me tonight. You cannot love your wife the way you want to love her. You cannot. Because love is a learned behavior. And if you're going to love your wife the way you want to love her, you may end up just showing love to her the way your daddy taught you. Which means that her love cup could always be half full. She could be missing out. My sister, you cannot love your husband the way you see your mother love her husband, because you're in a different environment, different culture, different human being. So how do you love? You've got to talk. You've got to talk to each other. Honey, how do you want me to love you? It means, therefore, you must tell him where to touch you, when to touch you, how to touch you, even how to kiss you. Don't take it for granted that he knows. Don't take it for granted that she knows. And you have got to say what you like, what you don't like. And I'm saying you must communicate. Communicate. So the wife must open her mouth and talk. Husband, talk. All right, talk things like, stay there, honey, stay there. I like that, honey. Oh, I like that. Don't stop, baby. Don't stop. You know, I'm talking communicate. These are, we don't talk about this from the pulpit. But families are stretching like poor fabric. Marriages are going down the drain because preachers like myself are not preaching enough about relationship. Relationship is all that matters. It's all about relationship. There are only two types of relationship: the vertical and the horizontal. The relationship between you and God, and the relationship between you and your fellow men. It's all about relationship. Your marriage is holy. Your marriage is holy. And if your marriage is holy, sex is holy. And we have been teaching people all over the United States, and when we get to the Caribbean, that sex is like worship. Say, ouch. Sex is like worship. And you know, Brother Williams, the good thing about it, God created angels. Angels are created and spiritual beings that do not have sexual desires. So angels will never engage in marriage. So when you and your wife are together hugging up, angels are happy to see that, and they don't feel jealous. Angels are spirit beings. When you're alone in your wife in that moment, they don't veil their faces and run away because they're there. Understand that. Worship, your relationship is a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual thing, and it's a holy thing, and you should not have any reservation. So make noise, make noise. The noises you make are holy noise. Holy noise, shout. Yeah, there are times my wife wants to cover my mouth, all right, but that's okay. It's hallelujah time, all right? All right? So we encourage couples to take time out to be alone. If you have the children, get a night out by yourself. I am telling you, you have to nurture your marriage. You have to nurture your relationship. And that when you're making noise, if you end up speaking in unknown tongues, that's all right too. God understands all languages. Okay? All right. So much more to share with you, but I really want to hear some questions tonight. I must give you a chance, but let me say this quickly. Listen to this now, folks. I'm going to make a statement. It's a very serious statement. It's a provocative statement. I want to listen to it. Don't say anything to your spouse if he or she is beside you. Just listen to the statement and listen to the explanation. Listen carefully now. The statement. People who want to be happy should not get married. All right, I'm going to repeat it, and you're going to see how powerful this statement is. People who want to be happy should not get married. Now watch this. And I'm going to use pick on the Williams. If Philip sees Philonie as the girl of his dream and said, I love this girl. I believe she has what it takes to make me happy. And if Philip reaches out to her and marries her on that platform, the fact that she has what it takes, she is beautiful, and hopefully she has what it takes to make him happy. That would be the wrong premise to enter into marriage. If Philonie sees Philip and says, this man, great physique, he's handsome, he has a good job, he's ambitious, I love this guy, I believe he has what it takes to make me happy. That's the wrong premise to enter into marriage. It's a selfish premise, and it will lead to serious problems. So how do we get married? Watch this. Don't miss this. Philip sees Philonie. He loves her. He checks her out. He believes in his heart that this is the woman of my dream. Then he takes one step back and he asks himself, do I have what it takes to make this woman happy? Do I have what it takes to make this woman happy? And praying that Philonie would reason within herself and come up with the same question, do I have what it takes to make him happy? Watch this. So how do you achieve the happiness? Watch this. When Philip loves God and Philonie loves God, when Philip loves Philonie and Philonie loves Philip, when Philip has a desire within his heart to make her happy, and Philonie has a desire in her heart to make Philip happy, when they get married, they would have found the secret of happy marriage. You see, that is taking the selfishness out of marriage. What do you see happening today? They are getting married because they love and they believe that this person can meet all my needs, when it should be the other way around. You see, and when you come up short, because remember this now, true love is an unconditional commitment to an imperfect person. You're gonna see flaws. But because you marry and you communicate with each other, then when my wife sees a flaw in me, she's gonna point it out quickly, and because I love her and married to make her happy, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to change that flaw. And if we could just approach it with that unselfish approach, then we will make it. We will make it. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to get your questions, and by the grace of God, it doesn't even have to bear on the presentation. Whatever is itching you, let us do some scratching tonight. All right. You look for the raising hands and see.
Don't be shy, brethren.
All right, you're gonna coordinate, Willie.
in the chat.
Will do, Pastor.
Okay, good. I mean, I can keep on talking, you know, but I want to get your questions.
Okay, Dr. Cross, I'm asking a question on behalf of a friend.
Okay.
A friend has said she is interested in having sex on Friday, Sabbath, and the husband does not think that it should happen because it is a Sabbath hours. What would you say about that?
Oh man, you see, beautiful question, beautiful question. Everywhere we go, that question comes up, you know, and that's why I alluded to the fact of sex being a holy thing. And that has a lot to do with how a person was socialized, okay? And there are some people who misquote the text in Isaiah, which says you should not find your own pleasure on your own holy day. That has nothing to do with sex. That is what we call eisegesis, where you are reading into the scripture what the author did not intend, okay? Now, listen carefully. We always give a complete answer to this question. You are not sinning. Sex is holy. The Sabbath is holy. But here is where the sin comes in, or the wrong. If the husband feels that it's wrong, and the wife were to force him to do something that he feels that it's wrong, then that is wrong to him. Paul says all things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. So the important thing for this wife to do is to get some help for him. Get some help for him, because at that point in time, he needs to, because sometimes lovers don't listen to each other. So at that point in time, he's not listening to her. He may need somebody. So call the pastor in. And hopefully the pastor don't believe the same thing too. But call in pastor. Call in the pastor, and hopefully you can shed some light on it. Please. Don't, Paul talks about it. Paul says, render to your spouse his or her due benevolent. The other word that is used is his or her conjugal rights. It is a right that your husband has. It is a right that the wife has. And so it is a difficult thing to deny that, but you have to try to balance the coin and try to educate him and talk to him, and hopefully he'll understand. If not, you may have to pray God to help you to take away your urge on a Friday night. But don't allow that to get into the marriage that way, because you are not wrong and you have to just get along.
All right, just reminding you that if you are a little on the shy side and do not wish to speak out your question, you may send it in the chat, or you can take my number and you can send a WhatsApp message like some folk have been doing to us. I will put my number in the chat, so you can just send us a WhatsApp message with your question if you are that shy and refuse to ask about that. There is something in the chat you may want to address Dr. Cross. To check the chat. All right, let me read it for you. It says, we often focus on physical intimacy a lot more than we do emotional intimacy. Could you speak on the importance of emotional intimacy?
Okay, very good question. Very good question. And let me say this as I touch this subject. Most time we think that just the women are emotional. Men are emotional too, okay? But the beauty about it is most men need to understand that intimacy should not begin in the bedroom. Love and romance can be in the car, can be walking, even while you're walking together in the morning or jogging. The point about it is what you say, how you say it, okay? I make love to my wife every single day, okay? It just ends somewhere else, but you start. And there are times you don't want your wife to read you so well that every time you run into a block. Let me explain what I mean is, you don't want to be talking nice And every time you talk nice, by the time the sun sets and you get in bed, you want sex. That can be a dangerous thing in the sense that you are only being nice because you want sex. So therefore, you have to be consistently nice. Consistently nice, even when you don't need that. Remember, the woman is very emotional. And I always talk about the emotional cup. If you fill her emotional cup, she will be a satisfied wife. But you cannot expect her to be responsive in bed when she's emotionally drained. You have to massage her emotion. You have to take care of that. And the only way to do that is to ask the right question, the appropriate question. And you have to listen. Listen, because sometimes we are not hearing what they are saying. And so they can run dry. I hope I helped you with that one.
We have
There's a hand.
Dr.
Jeanette,
Dr.
Jeanette,
Jan. Go ahead, Dr. Jan.
Brother Elder Williams, that was the question I was asking, but I also have another one, but I don't really want to dominate. So you could go ahead and take others if they're ready.
Oh, you're not dominating. You asked your questions. Only two you asked then.
All right. So the other question I have is, speak to us about the importance of the quality of friendship prior to the marriage in sustaining the marriage.
Okay. Speak about the quality of friendship.
Prior to the marriage.
Prior to. Okay, okay. I generally deal with that in love and dating with the young people. But you may need to get some tools to go back and help those who are in courtship or those who are talking about, you know, fiance, boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. Well, listen to me. We have a presentation that we dub generalize before you specialize. So we teach our young people how to generalize before they specialize. And we have a very powerful presentation called The Touch. The touch, which means that our bodies are made up of electric current. And we have to teach our young people how to touch appropriately because, you know, I mean, I'm not going to get into that now, but I'm going to try to get to your question. The fact is, if you have a friend that you begin to admire, then it is dangerous to allow that friend to touch you, especially if the friend is educated in the science of the touch. Because the fact is, certain touch affects your brain. It actually numbs your cognitive brain, where your cognitive brain can actually shut down. And a touch can cause you to lose your mind. Yes, you can be out of your right mind because the touch, which is electric current, can do that. So what I'm trying to say here is we should teach our boys and girls how to generalize before they specialize. Have boyfriends, have girlfriends. Our culture is messing us up, you know. Where relationships are concerned, our culture is not doing justice for us. Because if a young man were to come into your culture, because I grew up in that culture, and he's talking to several girls, they start calling him a flirt and some other names. Wherein you should ask the girls, when he talks with them, what is he saying to them? Because the subject matter is important. So what he's actually doing is talking with them. He's their friend, they are his friend, and he's finding out their values, their aspirations, and their goals. Be friends. And the last part and the most important one is we are made up of personality types. Each one of us have different personalities. Each person has at least 2 personalities. Did you know that? There are 4 personality types: the phlegmatic, the sanguine, the choleric, and the melancholy. Each person has two. One is dominant and one is in the recessive. The question is, Ellen White says, Satan is busy pulling people together who have no reason being together. So that could be one of the reasons why the divorce rate is on the increase. Because they don't take time out to answer the question like what you're asking and I'm answering tonight. And they don't take time out to take their time. Too many people are falling in love, walk into it. When you fall, you get hurt. See? So making friends is vital. But the problem is, your culture doesn't support it because they're going to criticize you. And some will even ostracize you. God bless you.
All right. Dr. Cross, just want to let the viewers know, because room is full. If you have friends who wish to join, tell them that it is being streamed at Knockpatrick SDA Church Couples Seminar on YouTube and also on Facebook. They'll see it on my page and the Knockpatrick SDA Church, because I see people trying to get in. All right. So we have another question, Doc.
How can you fix a flaw that is mental? It is in the mind, but manifests physically.
Well, you know, I'm not one of those who tell you just pray. Just pray. Okay? I'm a very practical counselor. Like, for example, I am not a substance abuse counselor, but when clients come to me, we are able to pick up that, hey, they have been abusing substance. So that is not my forte. I have to refer them to someone else, okay? So if there is something going on mentally, the person will need some mental help. And my wife's book is very important, you know, that we are recommending for all pastors to read. It has to do with the relevance of Christian counseling today. And what she's actually saying in one of her chapters, I don't remember now, is that pastors as clergy people, we are asked to counsel even though we are not trained to counsel. And we must know our skill set and our limitations. Therefore, pastors should know who are the clinical psychologists in the town, if not find one, so that you can refer, because you will come to this situation. And what we generally do is say, let's pray about it. When God has equipped others with the skill set to help you positively, all right? So, and let me say this to this questioner. Sometimes the way you talk can help a person to overcome certain hiccups, certain schisms, or certain gaps in their lives. So you too can be counseled to help the partner. What if you have a partner who don't really want to go to see a doctor? They call them shrink and don't want to do this. Then educate yourself so that you can say the right things to help him or to help her. Believe it or not, the way you talk to a person can help them by taking them by the hand to get them across the bridge, the way you communicate. All right?
Good. Next question. You talked about communicating to your mate about what makes you feel good in the bed. But what if the mate wants to find out yourself without asking?
Well, if he wants to go on an exploring journey, you see, the fact of the matter is, you look at the time it may take you to get from Mandeville to Ocherius, then you can go on that journey. Nothing is wrong with that. Absolutely nothing is wrong with that. But if you are the only one enjoying that, you're in trouble. Okay? So if your mate likes the journey, all right? It's like we call it now when you hiking and you're looking for treasure hunt. Okay? If your mate enjoys the treasure hunt, that's okay. That's okay. That's no problem at all. But you don't want to do anything in the privacy of your home as lovers. That's okay. That's no problem at all. Okay? I hear somebody. Okay, so just remember, if you are the only one enjoying it, it's dangerous. Dangerous. All right, so you have to make sure that your partner enjoys what you're doing. That's the bottom line.
Doctor, what advice would, no, not that one. I'm horny all the time, but my husband refused to have sex with me. In fact, I know he has reconnected to his mother's child. In fact, I know he has reconnected to his child's mother, but no evidence. What should I do?
It sounds like you need some private help there, okay? But your first statement, I would challenge you on that, okay? Where you say you are horny all the time. That has to do with a lot of what you're looking at, a lot of what you are talking about, because it is almost impossible to be horny all the time. Okay, so if you say most of the time, I can understand that, but for you to say all of the time, then I'd have to ask you, where do you work? What is your line of work? And so forth. Because the truth of the matter is, I've come across this already, and I've dealt with it the same way I'm dealing with you now. Because if you work around a lot of men, you can experience that. But it has a lot to do with your mind. It has a lot to do with your mind. And so you may want to change vocation. You may want to change your work location, because that is a path for self-destruct. Okay? Now, let me step into my pastoral garb now. Okay? Read the scripture. Spend some time reading your Bible. Honestly, spend some time with your Bible, because I would almost want to challenge you, if you're going to be honest and truthful, you're not reading the Bible as often as you should. The Word of God can pull you out of any rut. I say any rut. You just have to believe it. So spend some time with God in prayer and ask Him to give you that control. He will do it. Trust Him. Believe Him. He has done it for others. He'll do it for you, because you don't want to lose what you have. Work on it and improve it.
What advice would you give to a woman who is going through menopause and do not have the urge for sex, but her husband wants it all the time?
The husband needs counsel. Okay, I bear you again, where I'm saying here that our people need this type of environment where they can ask questions, get help, because a wife like this needs support and understanding, because a woman's body is like a chemical laboratory. And if a husband don't understand that, then it could cause him to go outside and commit adultery. Okay, the two have become one. You are partners. All right, and by the way, men do experience menopause also, not just women. Men do experience menopause, but it is very important that on the onset, menopause don't just come suddenly. On the onset of menopause, it must become a talking point between husband and wife, because once you get in there, you're going to need an understanding husband. Because even though you are experiencing menopause, it doesn't mean you don't need love and embrace just the same. And so he has to understand that this is a phase, and because I love my wife and I marry her to make her happy, my responsibility to help her across this bridge. The bridge is not forever. It's not long indefinitely. You will cross the bridge, and she will love you more for it. Okay? So don't get selfish now. Don't get selfish. Just think about her. All right? Good.
Next question says, how to remedy a marriage that has started out with the wrong intent? My spouse making me happy as against making my spouse happy?
Say that again.
How to remedy a marriage that has started out with the wrong intent? My spouse making me happy as against to making my spouse happy.
Okay, well, there you go. The important thing is you recognize that you started out on the wrong premise. Don't blame him, don't blame her. Both of you have to take responsibility that you started out on the wrong premise. It's not late to get counsel. Let me tell you something what my wife and I are doing now. We give premarital counseling, but after the couple get married, they know that they have to come back to see us for the post-marital counseling. We are the only counselors here in the United States right now who practice post-marital counseling. Everybody does premarital counseling, but we do post-marital counseling. In other words, when the couples come and they get their counseling leading up to marriage, before the wedding, we tell them 6 months after you get married, you need to come back to us. Do you know what my wife and I have been experiencing? People calling us all 1 month after, 2 months after. But it becomes easy for them now because they have already signed up for the post-marital counseling. There are a lot of people who need the post-marital counseling, but because they just got married, they begin to reason with it themselves. We just get married, I have to go on to counselor again, you know? And it appears to be a negative thing for them. So I would advise every pastor who's in the counseling field to interject in your counseling post-marital counseling. Buy our book. It is called Yes, you need to get a copy of our books on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and it will help you a lot. Okay, I don't know if you can see the book. Okay, this is it. The Basement Theory for Couples Conflict Resolution. All right. Counseling is important. Nobody should get married unless you get that counseling. It's very, very important. Sorry for those who are waiting to get in, but our line is full, I'm told, and you could go on YouTube.
All right, you can just let them know that the link for YouTube is in the chat, so you may send it out to your friends and others who wish to join at this point.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Cross, another question. How often do you think a couple should be having sex per week?
How often? As often as they want to. As often as they want to. But remember now, here, listen to it again. Don't superimpose yourself. If it's the couple and they're together on the same page, beautiful. But if it is the woman or the man who just wants the other one to satisfy them, then you have a problem. Because then the relationship gets on a selfish level. Okay? So if both of them are enjoying themselves and they can go 7 days a week, good for them. Talk to me. Let me know what you're taking. But the fact of the matter is, you don't want to be forcing your partner to go 5 times a week when maybe he can only go 3, and vice versa. Okay, just respect each other. You're talking about energy and human being and desires. Okay? All right.
Okay, people, send in your questions, send them through the chat.
And just remember, my wife was just whispering in my ears here that I need to interject something here. Listen, practice making love without sex. Practice making love without having sex. All right? So you can make love, and you should never have sex without making love. But you should also practice making love without having sex. Just remember, just remember that your wife is an emotional being. Wife, just remember your husband is also an emotional being. Okay? So you can love each other, appreciate each other, respect each other, and you don't have to cross that line every time you are in that mood. Don't have to. Okay?
They're saying that sex should not be timetabled, but sex should be spontaneous.
Of course, I agree with that also. I agree with that. You can be very spontaneous, but if you work out of town, hey, and you come home on the weekends, then so you just have to be flexible. You just have to be flexible. All right? But yes, spontaneity is the order of the day.
Someone posted that we should practice mindful sex. Elaborate on that for me, please.
Mindful sex.
Sex, yes.
That person may have to elaborate on that for me. Mindful. You see, I don't want to misinterpret, but there's a psychology out there now called mindfulness. Okay, but it borders on transcendental meditation.
It does not.
Okay.
We're allowing the person.
So this person may need to dialogue with me a little, because there is a whole school of thought about mindfulness right now.
Well,
okay?
I've released the mic, so I don't know if the person
Yes,
wishes to
talk
come
to
in
me.
and speak to us. Go ahead, Doc.
Oh, right. Mindful sex is when you're mindful, you are in the now, you're present in what is happening. So if, for example, a simple thing as drinking some water, you feel yourself you're in the moment holding the glass, you're tasting the water, you feel it going in your throat, you feel it going down in your stomach. So it's about enjoying sex that way, and just paying attention to the contours of your spouse's body, the scent. So you're using your senses, your five senses.
Okay. Okay.
The sexual experience.
Well,
You're listening to the sounds and those kinds of things.
That is it.
And breathing. Right.
The people who enjoy sex and romance will always enjoy it, has to enjoy it in a mindful way, because that's one of the problems where people can't satisfy each other, because you could be in the mood, yes, engaging in the act, but you're still in the office.
That's right. It's
so
not that.
You have to, yes, and I'm agreeing with you. If that's where you're coming from, yes, you have to be there. You have to be in the room with your spouse. You have to be in the moment. As a matter of fact, if you're not there, that's why so many people are experiencing some other form of impotency. It's a serious thing, because there's a disconnect. There is a disconnect. And that's why we have been teaching people to practice lovemaking before sex. Because it just don't click right if you just get into an act like that. Not even animals do that. Animals practice lovemaking. Watch them. Watch the birds. Watch them. They play with each other. So you have to practice that. Thank you for that question, that interjection. That was good. Very good.
Next question, Doc. What are your thoughts on oral sex?
I can't. I'm coming close to the screen. Listen, folks. Listen to what Paul says now, carefully. All things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. What does he mean by that? Well, I may want to engage in this, and nothing is wrong with it, but my wife doesn't like that. So she has a problem with that. So because of that, until I am successful in a way of convincing her I am not supposed to impose myself on her. And that is something that is strictly reserved for you and your spouse in the confines of your bedroom. It is something to be discussed on the outside, you know? And it's so interesting that as it relates to romance and sex and lovemaking, the Bible doesn't give us any detail on that. Why? Because God even created the lower animals and they know how to get along and do their thing. God has blessed us with that ability. That ability. But the wise man Solomon, who was a lover boy, came on the scene, and you read him in chapter 4, 5, 7, going on, and he gives you a litany of how to make love. And he leaves no stone unturned. Yes, he didn't go down and say that. He leaves you to imagine that. He didn't go down and say that. But every aspect of the woman's body, of your husband's body, is to be appreciated. He starts from the crown of the head and he goes right down. Now, I have done some little hygiene study. And I am taught that, guess what? The vagina is cleaner than the mouth. Say ouch. Okay, so if it's anything like that, you know, it's up to you. But at the end of the day, don't do anything that you are not comfortable with. That's where the wrong comes in. Don't force your husband to do something that he's not comfortable with. Don't force your wife to do something that she's not comfortable with. Remember, sex is holy. 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 And angels don't veil their faces. All right? Okay? Now, I see, you know, there are other things too when people have lost it all together and they've asked me questions about using toys and tools, you know, like your carpenter and your engineer, what have you. And I always tell folks, I said, listen to me, just before you ask the question, let me answer you. Before, men used to use knife and fork, they used to use their hands, am I right? But later on, they start using knife and fork. Knife and fork don't spoil the quality of the food. It only enhances the eating. So there is nothing wrong in using tools. If you care to use tools, just don't go, keep it to yourself. That's not for something for you to go give testimony on Wednesday night. That's for you and yourself, folks, right? So just remember that you use a tool to enhance your work. That's why you use knife and fork and spoon. It doesn't change the taste of the food or the quality of the food. All right? God bless you on that.
Sometimes a woman just wants to cuddle, but that cuddling causes the man to have an erection. This then makes the woman feel guilty. What do you do?
Yes, that's a good one.
Okay, you know, you are communicating and you must talk. So the wife should feel good that just by touching and cuddling her turns on her man. But the man must understand that that's all she needs.
Sometimes.
So that means if after you feel that thing, then ask, beg, go down on your knees, beg. I'm telling you, listen, guys, I'm serious about this. You don't understand. Sometimes the husbands are happy to know that the wives are chasing. Please, honey, I need you now. They say, but I'm just cuddling you, baby. I'm just cuddling you. What's wrong in begging? Why is it that he always have to be the one making the advances and the initiation? No. So it's a matter of you're there, you love your wife, and so far she should be happy with that. All right? But try not to, each time you're aroused like that, that you have to end up having sex. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
But sometimes the wife may feel a little bit do not want to do that, because as soon as he make advance rubbing the man started to get erection, but that's not what the woman wants at that moment. The men must learn when to have sex, right? If I make love and just wanted that hugging and caressing at that moment, not to have sex, the man must learn how to control himself.
Hey! Hey, all right. You see that? Right? So if what could happen here? You could cheat yourself out of love-making moments. If
Right.
every time your wife approaches you to love you, to caress you, to kiss you, you're taking that as a sign that she is ready to go to step 2. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because if each time she does that to you, you want to go to step 2, then she's going to think now that, hey, I ain't going to do this to this man. No. So you cheat yourself. You cheat yourself. So what I am saying is that communicate. 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 Because all you need to do, I need you. You know, say it. Don't tell me that you're giving me signs. Because the truth of the matter is, there you go again. It could be just one of those times where you just need to be cuddled. So don't cuddle with the expectation that I'm going to read your thoughts in that respect. Talk, folks. You are lovers. You are lovers. I need you. Okay. Get on your gears. Okay.
Here's a question here for you, Pastor. How can I teach my husband to be more romantic? And then I'm going to
Oh,
take...
Lord, just last week we got a question like that. You know, and I mean, you know, let me tell you, folks, this is a biggie. This is a real biggie. And that's one of the reasons I interjected it in the lecture tonight, if you were listening. All right? Stop teaching him. Tell him how you want him to love you. Because men are ego-driven. Sometimes we get big-headed too, don't want to learn from certain people, especially our wives. So the approach that we have adopted, and it is working, we are saying, stop just loving because you don't know how to love your wife. She should tell you how to love her. All right, and we actually develop some opening statements. For example, the wife should approach the husband in one of their conversational pieces and say something like, I like it when you can finish it. We just have a number of those open statements. I feel sexy when you. Don't use the you message. Always use the I message. Because once you go to the you, you're criticizing him, you're putting him down, and that's not good. So you refer to yourself and say, honey, I like it when you. And by so doing, if he's a smart husband and at all, then he's going to do that more. So use that strategy. I submit that. You use that. I like it when you. I hate it when you. You do all of those things, those open-ended statements, and that you can teach you. But if you take him out of where like you take in his hands and you know it and you're telling him what to do, that's dangerous. Very dangerous.
Okay, so we will take, oh my, Whittingham. Just raise your hand again. I accidentally lowered your hand before opening your mic. Whittingham, you can just raise your hand again so we can have you make your contribution.
And plan that cutoff point too.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Let me ask. Dr. Cross, you tell me how much more time do you have so we can work with you in mind?
Let's wrap this up in 10 minutes.
Okay, great.
And we are reading some comments, you know, and we appreciate the comments. I appreciate the comments, and you know, One person is saying that a woman should know what turns on her husband. We're going back to the same thing, that you should not make it difficult for your man, and you should not make it difficult for your woman. Tell him what turns you on. Tell her what turns you on. Talk, folks. Talk. Don't become the mysterious person, because you are the one losing out in the long run. So whatever turns him on, right? My wife knows what turns me on. I know what turns her on. So we just practice that. This is not a hide and seek. You got to disclose yourself, okay? And just remember, you need to practice the hedonic state in your home. Do I need to elucidate on that? You need to practice the hedonic state in your home. In other words, when God created Adam and Eve, how were they? Hey! All right. You see, that's one of the ways you get to know your spouse. That's one of the ways you get to know your spouse and appreciate your spouse and appreciate what she has, what he has. There are moments that you just let yourself go in the confines and the privacy of your home. And I always tell young couple when they get married, you should not go live at your parents' home. Because if you do that, you're starting your marriage on a sinking sand, not solid ground. Because when you're leaving your bathroom, you shouldn't put out your head to see if the way is clear. You go out anyhow, because you're exposing yourself to each other. All right?
I'm taking the last 3 questions. There's a question here. How do you move past the hurt of your spouse cheating on you? How do you move past the hurt of your spouse cheating on you?
We developed a number of questions that addresses that. Back and front, we call it the marital and personality profile. We ask a number of questions, and they have the true or false you are dealing with. But the question is, how do you get past your spouse or the situation after an unfaithfulness? I am speaking to you this evening with the presupposition that you are Christians. All right? Every Christian must know the doctrine of forgiveness. Okay? Forgiveness. So if a spouse commits herself and she tells you, she confesses, if she confesses and comes clean, it's because she recognizes she has done wrong and wants to get it off her chest and is begging you for pardon and forgiveness. Now, where in your heart will you want to say that I can forgive everything else but not that? You cannot. So you have to get past it. But I must tell you that it's not easy. It's not easy to get past, but you can if you want to. And of course, the wrongdoer should be very repentant. There are some people said, I'm sorry, I told you I'm sorry already. Well, if you have to say it again, you say it. The fact of it, with the sorrow comes humility. You can't be sorry and you're big-headed at the same time. You have to humble about it. Honey, I'm really sorry. I know I hurt you. And with that thing too comes a couple times where the person may, if it's the wife who you cheated on, she may close shop for a month or 2. And you have to take that because she's hurting. You have shared her body because your body belongs to her. You have shared her body with somebody else and vice versa. Okay? So give the person the opportunity to vent. They deserve that. They deserve that. But at the end of the day, you cannot go on indefinitely. remember, it's a sin. It's a sin. And if you want to go to heaven, you have to learn to forgive. Think about it that way, really. God bless you.
Question: how do we avoid our marriage relationship from failing when the kids come into the picture?
Very good question. Plan for them. Plan for them. And remember that the way we raise children today is not the way you were raised. All right? So it's important to plan for them, and children are smart. So you start to educate them early. In other words, children can know when it's mommy and daddy's time if you teach them early. If you teach them early, they can know. All right? I mean, when the door is locked, it's different from when it is closed. So when they touch that handle and it's locked, you go back to your bed and suck your finger or something, whatever it is. You know, you got to teach them early. The door is locked. That means you can't come in. But the door is closed, they turn the knob, it's open, then they can come in. Those are little things you got to teach them. You got to teach them, okay? Because children are selfish people. They're not thinking about your marriage. They're thinking about their needs, okay? So you have to understand that, set boundaries, and teach them. Remember, you're passing on values to them, all right?
Our last two questions. My friend told me that her husband married her as a rebound, and he has verbalized that. She feels trapped. I do not have skill set to talk to her. He does not want counseling, and she cannot afford it.
That's serious. He doesn't want counseling. And, you know, it takes two to tango, you know. And so, you know, in situations like those, you can't just pray. Need advice, need counseling. And you can really love a person, whether rebound or not. It can work if you would seek counsel and get some help. Sometimes some people come to us and we know that they have waited almost too long, almost too late. But we have the Christian foundation. It's never too late. It's never too late. But you have to seek help. Seek help. Okay?
No question. Should a couple, wife and husband, feel and look sexy as Christians on the beach?
Feel and look sexy on the beach? My wife is always looking sexy on the beach. She don't wear no long dress. I mean, on the beach. I mean, she doesn't wear bikini, but
Moderate.
but the point here, no, let me answer this and listen to it. I'm not gonna be brushing this aside. That is a mind thing. So I go to the beach to have beach day with my wife. And you know what my wife does sometimes? She would draw my attention to another woman, you know. She said, honey, she looks good in her bikini, doesn't she? I said, yes. And I want to look longer, but me not paying no mind to it. I just turn around and say, yes. And I take my mind off that woman. She does that. She admires other people. But guess what? Guess what? Before we get to the beach, as she undresses, I am telling her how she looks. So, honey, you look very nice. You look very sexy, very nice. And we go to enjoy ourselves. So don't get, you should not dress for other people to tell you how good you look. If you are married, you dress to please your husband and feel good within yourself. Two reasons. You must feel good within yourself and you dress to please him. Now, so You could feel good within yourself and he feels bad within himself. Now, if he's not reasonable, then fine, because there are some men will want their wife to dress a certain way that nobody else sees them. That is not right. I mean, you need help, brother. If that's how you behave, you need help. You want your wife to look good, and if she's good to you, fine. But at least you need to be very moderate where that is concerned, because there are some men who just want their wife to look a certain way with the understanding that nobody will be attracted to them. Well, guess what? I don't mind. I love when people are attracted to my wife. Of course. I love that. Does a lot for me. All right? Because when we're going home together. That's all there is to it. Right? So it's your whole mindset. Feel good about yourself. Look as best as you can. Just understand that you are princes and princesses. That's right.
All right, Pastor, I know we had said the last two, but there is this one question, and I can see fire burning here. Seems like it's from a young single person. It says, how can one be intimate in courtship without fornicating? And how far does sexual intimacy go before marriage?
Very good question. And that's why in our single seminars, we show them the graduation. Friendship is mingled with admiration, ends up in love and dating. You generalize before you specialize, so you can have several people going on a date. We call it group dating. Then you go into the couples dating. But here's the deal, folks. Here's the deal. If you love the person, then you should start going steady now, which means that I'm just going with this one person. But we have a subject that we teach them about the touch. I have a daughter who is not yet married. We have a daughter that's not yet married. And we taught her that if you go out with a young man that you really like, the worst thing that you could ever let him do is to touch you, because you like him. So what we have done is, when you go out on a date and you like the person, I mean really like the person, you have to step up on your game by discussing what you like about men. And we tell our daughter, we teach this to our single ladies all over the world where we travel, that if you really like the guy when he takes you out, then you have to start the subject on what you like about men or what you don't like about men. And one of the things that should come out of your mouth is, you know what I don't like about men? Those men who always like to touch up girls. Once you make that statement, if that man cares about you and loves you, then he knows he must keep his hand in his pocket, because you have already declared that you hate that. See? So you have to be careful how you put yourself out there. Why? Because the body is made up of electric current. One of these days I will deal with that subject for you, because if you allow the man that you like to touch you, and you are actually in an area where you are alone, it numbs your brain. We call it the emotional brain. I'm not going to get into that now. There's a part in our brain called the limbic system. It is the emotional brain. And the touch can actually freeze up your cognitive brain and stimulate your limbic system, the emotional brain. And that's what is happening. That's what we have to teach our young people, the danger of that touch. It's not that you don't like the guy, it's because you like him. Why are you going to say to him, don't touch me? But we have to educate each other on that. All right? I want to close off with a verse of scripture. My wife is going to read It's interesting to note that there are two verses of scripture. One that I am almost sure you have read so many times that you know it by heart. But there's almost an identical text that almost I could say that you have never read unless you have read through the Bible several times. John 3:16. Everybody knows that from kindergarten. For God so loved the world. But do you know that there's an identical text that deals with marriage and family, brothers and sisters, that we never really spend time? You never even hear a word preached on it. Listen to it. My wife is going to read. John 3:16 is what you know, so we're not going to read that. But what you don't know is 1 John 3:16. What did I say? 1 John 3:16. Read it on.
Hereby perceive we the love of God, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brethren.
I'm going to read it from the clear word. The clear word. John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. But 1 John 3:16 says, the clear word, we know how much God loves us because he sent his Son to die for us. We ought to be willing to die for our brothers and sisters. So that's a heavy text. What God is saying to us, just as God sent his Son Jesus to die for us as sinners, he's saying now that he has done that for us, we should be willing to die for our brothers and sisters. The question is, are you willing to die for your husband? Are you willing to die for your wife? I rest my case, because if you truly love each other and you are in love with God as a Christian, that's a decision that you should make in your heart, that if push come to shove, I will die for my wife. I will die for my husband. And you should be able to say that without thinking, without reservation. God bless you.
Oh, thank you very much. Before I move the vote of thanks, you did mention when the question was asked about the hurt of a cheating spouse, you showed some sheets with some questions. There are persons asking about those tools. So if you are able to make some available to me, to us,
I'll find a way to get it to you.
Right.
These are tools that we have created, and there's some question and answer, true and false things on it, you know, and it actually finishes with 2 Corinthians 5:17-20. And let me say this to you in closing. What we're doing is something that God has blessed us with. And that's why we have to be writing now. Because one of the things that I'm asking my conference to do, but you're dealing with man, and you know, I won't say anything more there. But my church has come up short. In your spare time or before you go to bed tonight, I want you to go and read again 2 Corinthians 5:17-20. And you will understand from those verses that God, who recognizes that we are broken, we are sinful, we are in trouble, left us a ministry. God, Son Jesus, left us a ministry. It is the only ministry that God has given to the church. But listen to this, brothers and sisters, listen to this. The only ministry that God has given to the church is the only ministry the church doesn't have. What is it? The ministry of reconciliation. In other words, we have ministry of Sabbath school, ministry this, ministry to that, but the one ministry that God has given to us, we don't have it. The ministry, and watch it. And I sat down and I analyzed it. I said, how important is this? If we were to establish in our conferences the ministry of reconciliation, watch how powerful this is. When a couple messes up and they decide that they're going to the minister of reconciliation or to the ministry of reconciliation, do you know that the problem is half solved already? Yes, because it tells you that we don't want to be divorced, we don't want separation. That's why we are coming to the ministry of reconciliation. The devil has one upon us because we don't have that in our Seventh-day Adventist church system. And by the grace of God, I'm going to keep pushing it, just that it doesn't reach the ears that it's supposed to reach yet. God bless you.
What can we say, listeners, viewers? Simply awesome. This truly has been a wonderful evening. Doctors Dolphy and Beverly Cross, we are delighted. We are so happy that you were able to join and share with all the viewers and the listeners tonight. I mean, I'm going through the comments in the chat, and when you get a chance, you may look at them. The remarks, the comments have been just awesome. People have really enjoyed the presentation, and I think, doctors, we may have to do this more often.
Next week again.
In fact, somebody says that we need more of these presentations in our church. And I really want us to partner with you when you have your time. I know you have a busy schedule, but we really want to partner with you to keep this alive, because marriages are under attack, and we have a responsibility where we can to help to preserve some of these marriages. So on behalf of the Knockpatrick District of Churches, we want to really express our gratitude and our appreciation to you both for taking time out to share with us this evening such a wonderful and spirited presentation.
Just continue praying for our ministry. Continue praying for our ministry. We travel a lot right now, and God has just been blessing us tremendously. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you showed the video, we have turned our home into the sanctuary. We call our home the sanctuary, specifically for married couples. And they would come and spend time with us, and we take them through the rudiments of relationship. And we're talking about romantic love here. And we created what is called a spa. And it's just beautiful, you know. So pray for us. It's a ministry that God has given to us. And when you guys come up here, you're sure to take time out and visit with us.
Definitely. So we just want to say thank you once again, and at this time we will turn over to our Pastor Spence, who may make a few brief remarks and then do for us the closing prayer.